Yeah.
Should have gotten better vendor drivers.
So hi everyone. Uh, Welcome to the meetup, our farmer meetup. This is only this is only our second meetup so far. So a little about me. I'm Binal Kamani. I work at Amazon as part of the data center group, and I work on the firmware for BIOS and BMC. And little while ago, we had a OSFC. Some of you I met there, which is the open source firmware conference. So I met a few folks there, and then I started looking into if we have a meetup here, like in this area, and I didn't see any good options, and that's how I and Ron actually connected. So he's a co-host for this, and we brainstormed few ideas, and then we thought like, okay, let's start this. So you're all new members, so thanks for coming. Um, so today's topic is ZTP or Zero Touch Provisioning, and we are going to focus mainly on ZTP for embedded systems. So I'm not going to go deep into networking side of it because ZTP is also very common, like common concept used in networking devices. So we are going to talk about embedded device. So anything you'd like to say, Ron, before we start?
No, thanks for coming.
Yeah, so the agenda today is we are going to talk about how ZTP is used in embedded systems, the challenges and benefits of using it, some of the examples, and what I have worked on, and followed by networking. So let's start. Has actually anybody worked on ZTP here, or any interface with that?
A little bit.
Okay, what have you done?
I didn't really do the work, but Eric Hendricks, Eric von Hensbergen, he's the fellow at ARM, and he took a system I built and added MDMS support.
Okay.
So that then I have these systems that can kind of come up and join a network without having to do anything.
Yeah, that's an exact example of
it's
networking.
It's great because you can say run on anything that's in ARM with this much memory and this load level, and it searches them out and runs on them.
Yeah.
Which is very nice.
Yeah, that's
So-
nice. Yeah. So we are gonna talk about that kind of example as well, if you're not familiar with it. So let's go into that. So just a little bit about ZTP if you've never heard about this. So it's a concept where we are reducing the manual need of configuration and saving the time. So kind of automating the entire process of deploying and managing. And this is again for embedded systems, right? So it can be at any of the stages. It could be at deployment. It could be at when you're provisioning your device or certification. So some of the steps that I've usually seen involved during ZTP on embedded system is like powering on, where you simply power on the device. And this is kind of like, now we talk about it and it's kind of like very simple idea, because if you look at like, for example, Alexa devices or thermostat, right? You basically just plug it in as a customer today, but it wasn't like that before. Like earlier it used to be like you have to do a lot of like settings and configuration, and it comes with a manual and you go through all the steps, and some things don't work, and then you search on Reddit like what's the cause and how to solve this problem. So this is where ZTP comes in picture. So it automatically boots up, and then the next thing is like finding the network that it can connect to. So especially we are talking about like smaller devices with smart capabilities where IoT comes in picture, so you need network connection. And then comes the discovery and authentication. This is where your service provider solution will take care of the certification part. So it's something that you'd have to provide to an OEM, and then OEM builds in that part with your device that the customer gets. Then comes the configuration, and this could be regarding your firmware updates, or it could be the network settings, application parameters, some of these things are required for depending on that device's settings. So some of these things could be required from customer endpoint or the manufacturer that knows about the what configurations will be required based on what you have requested on that device, and then the setup. So that's pretty obvious. So
No.
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
So this is sounding a lot like an MDM. What's the difference between the two?
So I haven't worked on MDM specifically, but I think there is a similar concept called plug and play, if you heard of that, which is, oh, you want to go ahead?
I forget what MDM means.
This is like, it's mobile device management, but it behaves very similarly. Where like, you have a device where you don't even have to open the box. You just
Yeah.
like can register the serial number in, and then when you boot it up, like on first boot, it automatically downloads a configuration after you click the network and does exactly this
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah, so there are actually a lot of terminologies used. I've seen this plug and play, or actually worked on that as part of the Azure IoT, and that was quite similar concept. So I was looking into it, like what's the difference between ZTP and PNP, and it turns out like in ZTP, because it's a lot more networking oriented, you could still require some kind of scripting for the configuration, while plug and play was like something where like there's this service called device provisioning, which does everything automatically. You will provide the config file, but there's not even need of scripting. But from other point of view, like from what you're describing, it's kind of similar in terms of like the configuration and automatically finding the device.
Also, I think MDM is an umbrella concept, I would say, because MDM not just covers the device part, but also on the web part as well, because you need to make a lot of configurations and the arrangement on the web front end, also to make those and manage those devices. So I would say, I think on the embedded side just comes as a subset of the whole MDM umbrella. I think
Okay.
that's my idea.
Okay. Yeah. So I think some of the benefits are kind of like obvious, which is you're reducing the cost because you don't need the manual technician to take care of things. You don't need to. I think the best benefit that I see is scalability and reduced errors, because if you remember, like I think all of us working in firmware or embedded background, we've seen like going through like a manual and all the steps to set up, and then some step is incorrect, and then you have to figure out like what's the right way to solve this, and then you create the customer issue request. It goes to like 10 different teams, and eventually they find out, oh, the spec is outdated, like we need to update it. So that thing goes away because it's automated configuration. And then because this is like configured with the network settings and everything, and if your device is getting the OTA updates, it even gets easier. Like even if the firmware was old and the device is delivered to you, and it gets updated automatically. So some of this like issues regarding configuration can be solved with that. And then increased security, remote management, as you can imagine, with not requiring physical access to the device. What are the challenges today? So these are some of the challenges that I've figured people have seen in industry. One of the major one is regarding security. It's a challenge anyways in embedded systems, but especially with giving this automated configuration, like unauthorized access becomes one of the biggest challenge. And then there are other challenges with like because you're removing the manual intervention completely. So if there is like a problem with your network connectivity, you'll see like not a successful ZTP implementation. So that's kind of obvious, like that is something you'd have to have like a good network connectivity. And then device compatibility. So this is like a more of a embedded system side of view, that not all the devices have all the settings required for all the hardware and software required to use ZTP. So it might require some additional things over there. And the other thing I was seeing is like there's the ZTP infrastructure is not that simple, so it requires some expertise when you're setting up from the service provider perspective. I think you said like you know a ZTP a little bit, right? Like, have you seen any of these challenges, or like Eric talk about that, or anybody
I
here?
think, yeah, somebody else here might have something to say about it.
Yeah.
So this should be mainly for a system with an OS, right? If
Yeah.
I'm working on a bare metal, like I can't expect to have ZTP provisioning, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's like in general, I think that would be the case with networking connectivity too, right? Like, so you, but as I'm seeing ZTP, like this is as a wider concept, right? So it at different stages, ZTP can still be useful. Like, for example, even before your device is set to the manufacturing, right? Like the be it firmware updates, when they are in the like in the facility where there's some sort of gateway kind of thing. So those things can be set up on ZTP.
I'm thinking about what you're saying here too, and certainly in HPC for a long time, we've had looking back, they were ZTP.
Oh,
And what they didn't have though is your security piece, because we didn't know about it, how to do that. We
Hmm.
didn't-
Is there a standard for secure download of configuration or something like that, like signatures or something that the system can verify? Say I can only download configuration from an authorized user or authorized server.
yeah, so that's something your service provider, again, like the solution
Yeah.
builder, will have to take care of,
Okay.
and
So-
they'll have to maintain. Yeah, go
Because
ahead.
that's where ZTP would be part of an MDM, more likely. Yeah.
Mm.
But if you look at a lot of hyperscaler data centers, they have a thing that looks a lot like ZTP. Like
Right.
the system comes up and measures itself and talks to, attests to something, and the something either says bad, go over there, you're bad.
Bad certificate or
You're about to get reloaded, sorry, or it says, oh, I believe you are who you say you are, and then depending on which hyperscaler it is, they may then download something and verify signing. But Chromebooks certainly too. I spent a lot of time in them, and looking at the over-the-air update certainly is sort of, there's a whole signing and such that has to occur in that.
Mm.
So
And so we talk about some examples. I think there was one example that Ron talked about. Some of the other ones are like the one I worked on, the plug and play that I was talking about, is kind of like this thermostat type of sensors that you can deploy in remote locations. That was actually the customer. So I was working on the SDK side of things, but there's a service called device provisioning in IoT, and that basically exactly does this. So you don't have to have like a manual support for configuration of these devices in remote locations. Something similar, like as I was mentioning about thermostat, so your smart home devices, and that can be easily connected to your network and not requiring much of like a setup from you. And we see this today, so it's like it's an embedded concept in a lot of like this devices that we get today. Another example is the kiosk, where it can be deployed in store and automatically configured for the updates and everything. So
I was just thinking, you can have the secure provisioning in the ZTP. Of all the idiotic exploits I've just seen, today's idiotic exploit was a device called a nutter. Does anybody know what a nutter is in the context of a tool?
no.
This must be a Bosch term. Bosch bought a company called Rexroth. They have a nutter. It's a nut driver. It's like a ratchet, right? And it's smart. And it also turns out that it could be used to implement a ransomware attack because they left parts of it open. So it's like you got, like this covers the part where like, I trust you now, but there can still be exploits.
Yeah,
it's-
that's the challenge of like.
And thermostat was the other one. They left an IP port open and it was like,
Oh,
yeah,
right.
fucking thermostats. I mean,
So the easier they make, the harder they it makes for the security
Yeah.
point of view, from the security point of view. Yeah, that was a short talk today, and then we'll have more future meetups, but we don't know when exactly. The date is not decided yet. Also looking for speakers, so if you're interested, do reach out to me. And if nothing else, I'll be posting it on my LinkedIn.
I
If you're
actually like
connected
it.
to Ron, yeah.
could I get a copy? You'll be posting this. I'd like to get a copy. Believe it or not, it's a nice summary. So
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
sure. So if you want to connect, just scan the barcode, and it will take you to my LinkedIn profile. So
she says. It might own your phone. I mean, yeah.
it could be the ZTP thing, configuring something on your phone. Yeah. So thanks a lot.